scheduled Norton Conservation Commission, and as is required, we will be reading the governor's preamble, which Dan will read for us.
Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 bill, several code policies
Hey, Dan.
allowing virtual meetings to continue from March
Dan,
2023. Yeah.
For whatever reason,
Yes.
you're breaking up. I don't know if there's something different.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you clear now. I don't know if maybe
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Maybe you're too far from the
No,
mic.
there's just a little screen that said "got it," and I needed to check that. Anyway,
There you go.
I start again.
Please.
Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 bill extending several COVID-era policies and programs by allowing virtual meetings to continue from March 31st, 2023 to March 31st, 2025, this meeting of the Norton Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the end of this agenda. Members of the public attending this public hearing/meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by raising their hand virtually or pressing *9 if participating by phone. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Norton Cable website, www.nortonmediacenter.org, an audio or video recording transcript or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting.
Thank you, Dan. Tonight we have John Thomas as our director, Megan Hopp as our assistant. I'm Julian Kadish here. We have Lisa Carrozza, vice chair. And other members are Dan Pearson, Paxton Hauschel, Tom Vest, Mark Fernandez, and the only member not participating at the moment is Ron O'Reilly, and he may be able to join us later. In this section, we open with new public hearings. Our first new public hearing is file number 250-1143. It's a notice of intent for a site at 360 South Worcester Street involving the construction of a large warehouse. I'm presuming you're the representative of the applicant, and if you can just introduce yourself.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, members of the Conservation Commission, Carlos Sculti with Civil and Environmental Consultants representing the applicant for this project.
All right, and do you need to share your screen with regard to your plans and et cetera?
I would like to, and I'll just note that it may be painfully obvious, but I'm calling from my car here. I had all kinds of trouble, so I'm trying to ham and egg it here together a little bit. Michael Tortoro from our office is on the line as well, and he'll be sharing his screen for context.
Okay. It's a little bit of a complicated project, really, for you guys winging it, but I know you're flexible, so
yeah, no, and I didn't mean to say that we're winging the project. Just I ran into car trouble. I couldn't get back to the house, to the office in time. So
that's fine. Let's dive right in.
Yeah, my apologies for that. I will start out by saying certainly this is the introductory meeting. We certainly don't anticipate or are not going to request for any sort of action today. So this is more about an introduction to the project. And we have received some comments from the agents. So we certainly understand there's a little bit of work to do to be able to address those before we're at a place a little bit closer to where we'd be ready to move forward in any real capacity. So for background, again, Carlos Sculte with Civil and Environmental Consultants representing the applicant Patriot Relocation Services. The project, as mentioned earlier, it's along South Worcester Street. It's a undeveloped piece of property. It's about 33.5 acres. The project that we're proposing is a roughly 35,000 square foot warehouse building with some incidental office space. You'll see that the work is consolidated along the roadway. The site does have a substantial amount of wetlands located throughout the property. Those were delineated some time ago by a professional wetland scientist. One of the comments that came back from the conservation agent was updating some of those wetland flags in closer proximity to the proposed work. So we're in the process of coordinating that, and I believe that's going to be done this week with the intention of getting that addressed to the agent's satisfaction. So we do have the wetland consultant going back out there to refresh some of the flags and redelineate some of these areas. So what we have here is an aerial overview of the property. The former wading rivers along the rear of the property. What we have here on the site for wetland resource areas are bordering vegetated wetlands and the associated buffer zones to those. And part of the scope of what the wetland scientist was asked to confirm was the extent, if there is any riverfront or bank along the property, because the Wading River was relocated, or appears to have been relocated to the north of the train tracks there. So just confirming there is no riverfront or that the riverfront does not encroach onto the property. So that's one of the things that we're reviewing as part of the ongoing work by the wetland scientist.
All right, if I could just ask for clarity, I don't know if, who did you say was had the screen share on?
Michael Tortora.
Michael, where are you on this? Well, at any rate, Michael, if you're able to point out, I don't know if you have a cursor, you can just show where the train tracks are, that area. I'm assuming it's right at the back of the property.
Train tracks run along the back of the property up to the north up here. Can you see
And
that?
yes, and then I see the long and two short dash lines, which I assume delineates the former Wading River area. Is that correct?
Correct. The former Wading River ran through approximately here.
And then I think it would be helpful if you could enlarge the plan so that it's focused right around the developed area, so that people can, because you have your limit of delineation, I assume, with the long line, short line.
Correct.
All right, and then in your plan set you have much more details, but in your plan set you're going to be dividing this site, the developments part, into two, as I understand it.
I could walk through a little bit about the development plan, but there is just one phase. This is all that's being proposed on the project, is this building and the incidental loading and parking around it. So the development area is about 4.9 acres on the overall 33.5 acre property. So roughly 85% of the site's going to remain undisturbed. And we'll certainly, I'll walk everybody through the plans in a little more detail, just walking through the design of the work that's been done to date. And then certainly open it up to questions afterwards, if that's okay.
Yep.
All right, very good. And so from a high level perspective, this is the portion of the site that we're focusing on for the development. Again, it's roughly 4.9 acres along South Worcester Street. The majority of the site will remain undisturbed. All of the work is being proposed outside of the 25-foot buffer zone. So the impacts are really located to the outer 75 feet of the buffer zone bordering vegetated wetlands. And really it's going to be done in a way that matches the Massachusetts Stormwater Management Standards, as well as all the regulatory framework that we have under the Wetlands Protection Bylaw. So under existing conditions, we did take a look at other areas around this, looked at the Mass Heritage Mapper. There were no identified vernal pools, but I understand that the conservation agent did want to get some confirmation about some potential vernal pools around the site. So that's part of what our wetland scientists will take a look at. Obviously, there's a time of year where that's more conducive to evaluate. So we'll certainly work with the agent on how to go about providing a confirmatory determination as it relates to the vernal pools there. The site is predominantly wooded, so there would be clearing associated with the potential development here. And we will be maintaining minimum disturbance to the extent that we can through essentially matching the grades around the edges and introducing retaining walls in some areas to minimize the impacts. So Mike, if we jump to the layout plans, it'll show a little more detail. Thank you. So maybe what you were alluding to, Mr. Chairman, earlier was the concept of splitting the project into two. It's really just a left and a right view that we have for each series of drawings to be able to show the detail at an appropriate scale. So again, it's really just one project. We have on the, so from the western portion of the site, we have access for the passenger car parking, which would serve essentially as the front door for the employees or people that may be coming to visit the site. So we have primarily passenger cars at the westerly entry there, and then we provided a circulation route around the building for fire access. You'll see along some of the edges we've introduced some retaining walls that have been designed to minimize the grades. So the parking meets the zoning criteria for the number of spaces that we have, and then we have loading on the easterly side of the building. So Mike, if you jump to the next page. So on the easterly side of the building, we have a few loading docks. Along the back side of the building, we have 5 depressed loading docks, and then we have 1 at grade that we'd be able to pull into the building. And then there's some storage space for trailers as vehicles may be not being used or actively unloaded or loaded, with a wider entry that would be suitable for the larger trucks to be able to enter at the east entrance there. So the east side of the building is primarily reserved for the warehouse and larger vehicle use. The west side is for the passenger cars. Next page, please, Mike. So this one is the grading and drainage plan. So prior to the preparation of the plans, we did have a pre-meeting with the town, the various departments, as well as some preliminary soil evaluation work that was provided and performed. We performed 11 test pits in January of 2023 by a licensed soil evaluator. They were witnessed by the Board of Health and the conservation agent at that time. And generally speaking, the groundwater was fairly deep, as well as the soils was very conducive for both septic and stormwater infiltration. It's a sandier material, so it really worked well for the design of the stormwater management system. So what we're proposing here for this project is to pick up the pavement areas with deep sump-footed catch basins, route them through water quality units, and then ultimately to subsurface stormwater chamber systems where the stormwater will be treated and infiltrated back into the ground. We have one system here on the west side of the property, and then we have one on the east side as well that I'll show in a second. So the approach for the stormwater management was influenced by some of those initial conversations that we had at the department heads meeting, where it was recommended that subsurface chambers are actually preferred in lieu of open basins, just to be able to assist with maintenance in the future, and essentially they perform better in the opinion of the town's conservation agent. So we certainly entertained that, and we approached the design with that in mind. So we are taking the roof areas as well. They will be conveyed with subsurface piping to the same infiltration system that we have here on the west side as well. And then the slopes that we have around the site, we'll have 3-to-1 slopes being proposed, which are stable and don't need any additional protection, so they'll all be vegetated. And then we introduce retaining walls along the edges where we're minimizing the disturbance and staying out of the 25-foot buffers. So next sheet, please, Mike. So on the east side of the site here, same general approach. We'll have a number of catch basins routing through water quality units to the subsurface infiltration system. These systems have been provided to meet the recharge requirements, as well as the 1-inch water quality volume and the water quality flow rate according to the stormwater management standards. Next page, please, Mike. And then for the utilities, we're connecting overhead utilities along the frontage. We'll be introducing new underground electric and telecommunications to the building, as well as underground natural gas services. And then the sanitary sewer service for this building will be provided by a septic system that you'll see in the northwest corner there. So the septic system, it's been designed for the anticipated employee load based on the proposed use. That will obviously go through a separate review with the Board of Health. We're providing the appropriate setbacks, both from the wetlands as well as from the infiltration system to the proposed septic system. We are also introducing a water loop around the building for additional fire protection. And we will note that the project has also been submitted to the planning board as well. So that'll be going through a comprehensive review process with the board, concurrent with the review that we'll be going through with the Conservation Commission as well. So they are working on engaging a peer reviewer for the project, and we'll be working with them as the project moves forward as well. So there would be a third-party peer review for the project as we go through the local permitting process here. Next page, please, Mike. Same thing for the utilities here. If we go to the next page, please, for the landscaping. So I'll finish on the landscaping here and then open it up to any questions that you may have. The landscaping for the project, we are introducing a fairly dense vegetated buffer along the frontage. So we do want to make sure that the building's screened from the roadway. We understand the neighborhood and the context of where the building's proposed. So we are introducing a mix of evergreen as well as deciduous trees along the frontage, as well as keeping a robust landscape strip there to be able to set the building back and provide that visual buffer from the street. And we're also providing landscape screening around the perimeter, as well as within the building to help provide some curb appeal and some additional screening around the perimeter of the parking areas, as well as the loading areas. So if you go to the next page, Mike, that'll be the landscape plan for the proposed loading areas. Again, introducing a mix of evergreen as well as deciduous trees to provide that year-round visual buffer from the street there to the proposed use. And then the next page, we have some lighting plans as well. If you're interested in reviewing those, it's going to be met to minimum standards for the lighting, for safety, as well as accessibility for the proposed buildings through a mix of street lighting, individual poles, and the building mounted lighting around the perimeter of the building as well, just providing a safe environment during the evening hours. So to that point, we appreciate any comments that you may have. We believe we've designed the project to respect the no disturb buffers, as well as meeting the Wetlands Protection Act guidelines. We do have preliminary comments from the conservation agent. I certainly understand that will be part of the process, and we welcome working with the town as we go through the review. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. So I guess I think with a project this size is reasonable. Start with you, John. You have any major comments you want to add? And then conservation members will begin.
Just to, I guess, add on to that, well, yeah, for instance, we will be, we have contacted the peer reviewer and contracted with one to do the peer review for the stormwater. That's going to be under conservation. And for the general public that are here this evening for this project, please note that any questions you may have, I would just state that, make sure they're in line with environmental, conservation, stormwater related. Any questions on lighting, any questions on traffic, any questions on screening, things of that nature that are dealing with the planning board, we ask that you reserve those for the planning board meeting that is going to be held, I believe, tomorrow. So thank you.
All right, so conservation member questions?
I have a few, Julie.
Yeah.
You can scroll to the top of this plan for the Wading River. So you said it was relocated. So where did the information from here come from then if it was relocated?
So the delineations that we have here are based on a delineation that was done by the wetlands consultant. I believe it was about 3 years ago. And it was flagged at that time as the former Wading River, so it wasn't identified as having a riverfront. All the FEMA maps and all the information we have to date appear to indicate that the actual river itself was essentially cut off at the railroad tracks and shifted north of the railroad tracks. So just verifying that would be part of the scope that the wetland consultant will be doing.
Okay, so but according to FEMA, is there any flood zone mapped on the site?
There is, it's a zone X. So there's a zone A and a floodway that's actually mapped that follows the railroad tracks north of the railroad tracks. So in the lower portions of the site, it's a zone X, which is the 500-year floodplain. Yep.
Okay, so there's no 100-year flood zone on the property.
There is not, no.
Okay. So, my next question is if you can go to the grading plan and show, I could not tell the difference between the grading and where you're going to put those retaining walls. If you can just outline where the walls are going, what those are made out of. Will be made out of.
Sure, yeah. So while Mike's highlighting where those walls are, we would typically build those out of a modular block system. So ready rock walls or essentially a gravity wall, somehow they're referred to oftentimes. So it's essentially just stacked blocks. Sometimes they have a geogrid behind them that keeps them in place. Sometimes the blocks are of sufficient weight that they essentially hold the earth back based on the weight of the blocks.
So is the top of the wall shown? Is the top of my question? Is the top of the wall shown, or is the toe of the wall shown once you get down at that angle? Whatever that is, it 3-to-1, whatever that wall block is. Are you showing that true to scale so that we can tell? You know, do you need room behind the wall to construct the wall? Do you need access back there? Do you need a work zone behind it?
Yeah, no, that's a fair question. We show the walls with a thickness that represents the actual size of the blocks that you would represent. So we show the toe of the wall, and then we draw it with a thickness that represents generally what we believe that the blocks will be based on the information that we have. And in this case, around the perimeter of the site, it's all lower than the site. So the way that you would build these is you would essentially you would build up from the toe, so you don't have to extend past that toe to build it back or to have any sort of temporary excavations. So the front edge of the wall really would represent the limited disturbance that we have for the project, because you just stack them up and then you fill in behind the wall as you're building it.
So is the detail of that wall?
There is, yep.
Okay.
Mike, if you jump to that page, you could show the detail quickly.
So this is the only segment of wall?
No, there's I think maybe 3 portions of the site that have a retaining wall.
All right, let's look at the detail first and then go back to the plan view and take a peek at where that wall is.
If you're not seeing that detail, Mike, we'll make sure to add that to the plans if it's not in there currently.
Right. I'm not going to know how to build it if you don't have a detail. The next question I had on the grading and drainage plan is where your snow storage areas are going to be.
Sure, I believe we show that on the layout plans. So we do have perimeter snow storage areas identified on the plans along the edges that it wouldn't impact the available parking or or the circulation for fire access or for the loading for the site as well. So we do have some snow storage areas identified on the plans.
Okay, and on the other side of the trucks, do they? Yeah, I mean, is that gonna be enough space considering the length of that plow? That run?
Yeah, it ultimately can be. So it's really dependent on how it's being managed, and also there's space on the pavement as well. Should we not want to plow essentially and clear the entire paved area, I think there's enough space on the site to be able to have some of that storage area within the pavement also be available for snow storage if we need to.
Okay, I see the remainder of the wall is on this side. Okay.
Yep.
And then where you have any dumpsters outside?
We do not. That's a good point. We'll certainly work in the storage within the site. They wouldn't be a large user, so we'll find a space for external dumpsters. Those would be fully enclosed and screened. So we'll add that to the plan set. Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
So you're saying that the usage of this building is strictly manufactured goods and then redistribution. There's no manufacturing that's going to happen here.
Correct. We're not proposing that as it is today. The original use intended by the applicant, he owns a moving company, so the idea would be just to have a temporary place to store some of that material that they have from the moving. So no manufacturing, no processing. It's really just a warehouse use.
All right. So Lisa, you're all set with your question set, and anyone else on the commission have questions? Of course, this is in process, so there will be more opportunities in the future to ask questions concerning. So if we don't have anyone on the commission,
Julian, I just had one quick question.
yeah,
Just was hoping you could clarify something you said at the beginning. I understand there was a request to have a couple of the flags redone. I think I read on the plans that the original flagging was done in March of 2020. Is that correct?
To be honest, because I'm not at my desk right now, I don't have the dates in front of me.
Okay. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I read that somewhere. And then I was just hoping you could draw our attention to which of the flags were going to be redone. I'm assuming it's not all of them.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought process to them, was to just refresh the flags within the within the project work area.
Okay.
Because refreshing all of them for the whole entire site is going to be an extensive task, especially this time of year. So, they can show those areas as approximate, but just kind of refresh the flags within proximity to the work area. This is only a notice of intent. This isn't an ANRAD, so they're not trying to confirm the resource areas on the site. They're just trying to confirm the resource areas within proximity to their project. So,
Gotcha.
Yep.
Thanks.
all right, I think we can potentially open questions up to anyone on the meeting who wants to ask a question about the project. And if we don't, and you can do that either by just introducing yourself or raising a hand by going to the reactions. I think it's the reactions. Yes, it's the reactions button. But if we don't have any questions, there's still a lot of more to come, information to come forth, particularly with the stormwater review that is still pending. So this would need to come up for a continuation, and our next meeting is February 12th. So we can consider a motion for continuation unless there's something more we need to detail tonight.
I'll make that the motion.
Second.
So we have a motion made by Tama and seconded by Lisa for continuation of this hearing until February 2nd. It's February 12th, rather. And we'll have some more information at that time. So again, roll call vote. So we'll begin with Lisa and Paxton.
Aye.
Lisa, you didn't, I didn't hear your audible, but it looked like you said aye.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Aye.
okay. And then we have Mark and Tama
Aye.
Aye.
and Dan,
Aye.
and I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. So we'll see you guys February.
Before you leave, may I just ask a quick question? I know Ready Rock is a specific kind of gravity wall. Do you have any others? Do you intend any others, or just gravity wall generally?
Just gravity well, John. Yeah, we're not beholden to any one particular manufacturer. So certainly,
Okay.
we're open to the best manufacturer, the best material for the proposed use.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
That's all.
All right, well, thank you guys. Our next item on the agenda is, does not have a DEP file number, but it concerns a project on Reservoir Street. In particular, map 9, parcel 223 for construction of a roadway and utilities and for a subdivision. And in our review of the site for the delineation of wetlands are actually fairly limited in this project. So maybe it'll be helpful when you open up your map just to clarify exactly where our jurisdiction is. Although I know you have drainage issues, so technically it's the whole thing. But so go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'll start. It's Ned Corcoran. I'm an attorney in Milton representing the developer. I'm joined by Cameron Campbell from the Burke and Sala Engineers. Cam is the project engineer. If you recall, we were before the commission on an informational presentation at your November 27 meeting. We had just received a favorable vote from the planning board on the definitive subdivision, and as a condition of that subdivision, we are required to develop a conservation restriction over a substantial portion of this property, and we kind of walked through the map of the project at that point. We're still working on finalizing the CR. I need to connect with John Thomas this week, and I've reached out to the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs to review from their perspective. But that's a sort of a quick history. And at that, let me hand it over to Cam, who's got access to the plans, and he can walk you through where we are to date. I do understand that you're in the process of securing peer review for the stormwater. We'll certainly be back after this meeting for additional hearing. Cam?
Yep. How's it going? My name is Cameron Campbell with the Burke Sala. I'm the project engineer for the site, and I'm going to share my screen if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
So this project's at Zero Reservoir Street. Can you all see it?
Only when you see the locus map.
Yeah. So here's the existing site. At Zero Reservoir Street, map 9, parcel 223. There's no development on it at the moment, so it has no real address. It has 588 feet of frontage along Reservoir at the front here, and then about 320 feet of frontage on the Norton Reservoir at the rear. It's a relatively flat in the front portion of the site, and it creeps up to a knob of ledge and then starts to slope back down to the reservoir at the rear. There's some passive walking trails on the site. It's a young forest. There's about 1.8 acres of wetlands, bordering vegetated wetland here at the west side, a potential vernal pool here that slightly clips onto the site, and then a bordering vegetated wetland at the rear along the Norton Reservoir, and then another wetland at the front right of the site to the east here as well. As Ned said, we were approved for approved for a 14-lot subdivision through the Norton Planning Board, and we're looking to permit the construction of the roadway for this subdivision. I can get in. So here's the grading. There's two entrances on Reservoir Street, and it loops around the site. It's about it's about 2,600 feet of roadway, 26-foot wide pavement with 5-foot sidewalks on either side, and the grading is made to match the site as best possible, and then it slopes off the edges to meet back up with the lots at a 3-to-1 slope. We have this portion which crosses into the 100-foot wetland at the front right of the site. There's as you can see, I can zoom in. This dark black line that comes through here is a retaining wall to keep the grading from encroaching onto the 25-foot buffer. And this light gray line is the proposed public easement walking path that we have with the conservation restriction that we presented a little while ago. There's a proposed constructed stormwater wetland here at the front portion of the site, and also a rain garden here at the front right. And what feeds these is there's approximately, there is 28 catch basins on site, and a total of 24 catch basins and a total of 4 drain manholes, and with 5 water quality structures, and then an additional water quality tank with filters, which is at the rear, which I'll get to. This controls the front portion of the site. It has an overflow, a piped culvert that will shoot out to the wetland over here, as well as the rain garden has a piped culvert that will also shoot to the wetland over here after proper pre-treatment. And here's the rear portion that crosses. Only a small amount of the grading will cross into the 100-foot buffer of the Norton Reservoir. And we have a detention basin with a retaining wall and gravel access road up against the roadway. This is fed by additional catch basins around the property. And then it ultimately goes through a water filtration tank and then to an outlet within the 100-foot buffer of lot 5, which within a drainage easement. The stormwater is made to meet the Mass Stormwater Handbook guidelines. It decreases the overall flows leaving the site. We are asking for a waiver on the 1 inch of rain retained due to the poor soils on the site and the high levels of groundwater and additional some ledge throughout the site as well. Zoom out. I have a bunch of views of the new utilities. Essentially, there's going to be a new 8-inch water line looped through the road, a 2-inch force line sewer. All of the lots will have their own small gravity pump that'll pump into the force line sewer that'll meet a gravity line in Reservoir Street. We're currently working with the Norton Water and Sewer Commission on permitting we have to bring a sewer line 1,300 feet up Reservoir Street. It is a gravity line, and they're currently peer reviewing the work also. There will be electric line throughout, street trees placed every 40 or so feet, and then light poles placed, I believe they're every couple hundred feet. And they're zero dark sky compliant light poles. So the majority of the wetland disturbance, buffer zone disturbance, is at the front right of the site where the roadway crosses through the 100-foot buffer, and there's a retaining wall that keeps it from going into the 25. And then at the rear, there's some minor grading into the 100-foot buffer for the reservoir, and then sorry. There's also a wetland here with the grading for the roadway does not encroach into this area. And we're outside of the 100-foot of this. If it were a certified vernal pool, we try to remain outside the 100-foot with any disturbance. And at that, I'd like to open it up to the commission with any questions.
Yeah, I need some clarification. Maybe you can help me with this, John. But right now, the stormwater is being reviewed with regard to the drainage from the road. That's the limit of it now? Is that correct?
From the road that they're proposing, the loop road that they're proposing?
Correct. And the part two of the question is, will the impervious surface associated with the houses and the driveways of the houses, does that also have to meet stormwater standards?
Yes, that's part of it. So for instance, right now, the one thing that we have, it's a two-phase project as I look at it, is that, the road is coming in, so they got the stormwater permit, which they're getting basically through this notice of intent for the roadway, but then each lot, depending on the size and scale of it, will need to, meet the stormwater provisions. But since it's a 14 lot subdivision, the whole thing is going to have to be have its own separate stormwater permit with our local regs. So, the one question is, that's the other thing. I know that typically some of these things go in phases. They do like to do the roadway first, but part of the thing to think about is when you're doing these projects is to try to overbuild or over-design the roadways to compensate for a lot of the potential runoff that's going to be generated from any sort of house construction that goes along with this. So I want the applicant to basically either confirm that that's kind of what they've done with this. Obviously, the peer reviewer is going to have the same questions because, we know the next phase of this is going to be for house construction.
Yeah, so we designed it to handle the impervious from the road, and the plan is to, when we pull the building permits for the houses, each house will have its own stormwater system to control the roof runoff and additional impervious for the house.
But you at one point said that you can't put septic systems here because you basically have ledge fairly close underneath, so the ability for the area to absorb locally a lot of increase in runoff from impervious surface is limited. So I mean, to me that seems like there's a conflict, potential conflict, and from that, you would perhaps need to compensate by making your system for the road a little larger, as John has suggested.
Yeah, and we can look at it, but the infiltration's not 100% of controlling the runoff. You can do rain gardens for the houses that'll detain water, which will slow down the runoff, which will decrease your peak flow rates and let water release at a non-peak hour so that you're not flooding your systems.
So
And you-
typically when this is separated like this, if you were to put those houses on there, you would estimate that approximately the front half, I've done this myself, the front half of that house is gonna drain towards the street, and you account for half the roof and the driveway and the front lawn in order to size the system in the road. So is that not done? Because that's not conventional.
No, we did it strictly for the road. The houses will typically have gutters and they'll be directed out towards the rear to a new system.
Well, no, that's just not true, because the driveways are gonna face the street. You're gonna have sheet flow from the driveways right into the street. So I suggest that you go back, like we typically do, lay the houses out. I've done this a million times myself. You lay the houses out of what could be there. You take half the roof in the entire driveway, and you run the model with that. And then you're guaranteed that your street drainage will be able to handle any of the driveways. And then people, will typically add on to driveways and they're adding more and more pavement. So you have to account for that now in this system. You can't say that a dry well in a house is going to be able to handle a driveway. That's not practical. That's doesn't even make sense. So I suggest you go back, and typically what a civil will do, like I said, was take half the roof and the entire driveway and the whole front yard and model it so that all that's contributing to the drainage system in the street.
I can look at it. I can model the only 20,000 square feet of these 60,000 square foot lots are allowed to be built on. So I can model it so that 20,000 is considered a quarter acre.
No. You would like to have it by 14 house lots, and you have a larger contributing area than you think.
Yeah, and we've done house lots, single family house lots before where the driveways can be graded to a rain garden prior to hitting the street as
So-
well.
I'm just gonna lay this out a little bit. Reservoir Street has been known to flood on a lot of occasions. And just this last rainstorm that we had, this significant rainstorm, we had flooding all over Reservoir Street. It was almost impassable in some locations. So the whole area that you're seeing with the poor soils and everything, that's only gonna be, exacerbated by this potential development. So when you're doing your design and your study, I would be a little bit more on the conservative side, with the numbers. I'd round up rather than round down, and make a larger system because, I'm afraid that, for instance, it's only going to compound to the certain issues that we're dealing with on Reservoir Street currently.
Yeah, and we did that originally, and planning board asked us to remove the houses off the site. So
But for what reason did they ask you to remove them?
because we had them labeled as conceptual, and there was a comment that it was deceiving.
Okay, but that should not really influence your stormwater design.
Yeah, so we've done modeling with the houses before, and so I can add that into the plan.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's a good
Yeah.
suggestion from Lisa as well. I think just doing that and just that way, for instance, obviously, the peer reviewer would want that and do the full review. That's probably what they're going to come back with a comment on too, is, what the intent is for the house construction and stuff like that. So, I can send an email out, alongside that with the plans that they're going to get redone. So.
And on that note, John, I'm not familiar
Yeah,
with
just
a waiver for
For the-
not treating the first inch.
Yeah, I'm not either. So I guess that's another question too. I mean, is it just that, for instance, there's not enough room or capacity?
I'm,
So the
I
waiver,
missed that point. If you could just rephrase that.
So you have to treat it up to the first inch. right? For water quality purposes. And what they're saying is they can't treat it and they're gonna ask for a waiver.
So we can treat it. It can't be retained and infiltrated back into the site. It's being treated,
Okay,
but
so what's gonna happen to it then?
it gets treated and then released.
Into the
It gets-
wetland.
Yeah, into the wetlands or towards the Norton Reservoir. It gets detained on site, so the peak rates don't increase and then released over slowly using outlet control structures, and it goes through water quality structures as well prior to being released. It meets the site meets the 90% TSS removal for new development for Norton, and also the 60% phosphorus. And
Okay,
it's just that the soils aren't conducive for infiltration. Hence why this site hasn't, hence why we're bringing the sewer all the way up on reservoir, because you can't put septic systems on this site because of the high groundwater and the poor soils.
so the waiver for the 1 inch is then for what? For
For
quantity?
the retention on site.
Now, I'm not familiar that you're even eligible for a waiver. I don't know who grants that waiver. I mean, it certainly wouldn't be the commission if that's the standard that Mass DEP sets forth. We can't say, oh yeah, we'll just waive that.
So from what I read, it's from the Norton bylaw 133-10A2. It asks for a retention of 1 inch of water on the site.
It does. It's a little bit more strict.
Okay, so again, I would defer that to John Thomas to say, do we have a, performance standard if it can't be met?
I guess the question is, you know, obviously, as if we're gonna grant a waiver, we need a viable alternative on how that it would be achieved to be able to understand that better. So I guess the real understanding of that is, why can that not be met? Is it because you're trying to get 14 house lots and you don't want to lose a house lot? Or is it the fact that, for instance, it just can't be done because of the soils?
It's just strictly the soils. You'd have to bring in, the groundwater is only 2.5 feet down. You'd have to, and the soils are very tight. You'd have to bring in a significant amount of fill to get that groundwater separation
And
and
that's why nobody's built on it.
to allow the infiltration.
Stay unbuilt. So you have areas like this all over southeast Mass.
Yeah, detention system. Detention systems are used as well all over Southeast Mass. They're not uncommon, and it's the system you use when there's areas like this.
All right, let me ask, so where is that release gonna occur? Can you show
There-
me on the,
Yes. There's one for the rear detention right here.
okay. And where does it go?
It'll flow overland to Norton Reservoir.
All right, but I'm more concerned about your structure in the front.
So it is. Zoom in on it.
Yeah, the last thing we want is to flood out Reservoir Street. So,
Or a neighbor.
or a neighbor. So, you know, I'd say that, you know, keep any sort of excess flows away from Reservoir Street or any neighbors to the east and west.
So this gets culverted to the bordering vegetated wetland here, and with the
Right.
study we've done, it decreases the peak flow that goes to it now. So
Right, but you're saying these soils can't absorb any additional water. So what I'm seeing is, how much water are you collecting from the whole site, directing it to this front system, which is then going to release in total more water into that bordering vegetated wetland, and whose property and house is directly adjacent to that? So, I mean, do your studies show that there's no possible increase in the water level in that wetland from this kind of a plan?
The study shows that we decrease the flow into the wetland. The whole front of that site flows to that wetland now. And then this is why we're constructing, it'll be essentially a new wetland at the front of the site that slows down the flows before it gets released to the new other wetland. And that's to compensate for the additional impervious surface on the site and the
Well,
overland flow.
but that wetland goes off-site, is that correct? It extends off-site.
Yes, yeah.
So, one of the issues is you can't dump water on a neighbor, and does your system truly, are you going to be able to prove that this system is not going to give a neighbor excess water, since these soils can absorb excess water?
Well, through the drainage design programs that we use, it shows that it doesn't increase the flow going into that wetland. That's about the proof here we have.
So, can you remind me of the waiver again?
So 133-10A2.
Okay, oh, but I'm sorry, but why you can't meet it?
Because
In how close you come to it, right?
so I'm not taking account for any infiltration. I've designed these systems strictly to ignore infiltration, and that's the conservative way to do it. And it's just strictly detention. It's the soils on the site are so, I've done 5 test pits out there throughout the site, and the soils on the site are very, very tight. And the groundwater is at ranging like 2.5 feet at below the surface. And then there's ledge in some areas. In the Mass Stormwater Handbook, when you have C or D soils strictly throughout the site or ledge at the surface, they allow for a maximum extent practicable to infiltrate. It's just the Norton bylaw asks for a 1-inch retention.
Yeah, it's conservative.
Okay, but it also leads me to think that those people that are gonna be building houses, you're probably gonna have to bring in fill for every one of those houses. So that it gets, their yards, they don't all have sump pumps and French drains, and they don't have skating rinks in their yards. If indeed you're saying there's not gonna be any infiltration, but yet you're gonna leave it up to each individual house lot to infiltrate. So you're kind of saying 2 different things there, right?
I'm not leaving up to infiltrate, more to detain on their own site and release.
How can they, if
That's-
fields aren't conducive to that? You'd have to bring in fill to each individual lot then, right?
Well, if you were to infiltrate, yes, but detain, you don't need conducive soils to detain water.
So far, most of the houses that have been built on Reservoir Street to date, since my tenure here, have been raised up. So along in this area. So all the houses that are going to be built on this site are probably going to have to be raised up, except for the ones that might be built on that knoll where that historic fireplace is.
Yeah.
But that's probably about it. And I think that, the other issue is, where you're going to find ledge with the foundation and stuff like that. That's going to have to be, investigated, whatnot. But anyway, my biggest concern with a lot of this stuff is, I just think that the amount of volume and the amount of potential runoff that's going to be generated from all this, from final product, I think that's how it should be, where you should be looking at this, because, that wetland system that's created down by Reservoir Street, if that overflows, that goes onto Reservoir Street. So that's the concern I have. If that pipe gets clogged, or anything happens, that wetland's just going to overflow onto Reservoir Street, and we're going to cause, I'm going to have to call highway, and then it's going to be a maintenance nightmare.
Yeah, and there's about 4 to 5 feet of difference between the wetland base, the bottom of the wetland, to the top to Reservoir Street,
Right.
and the
Right.
outlet is
Yeah. So
down.
the biggest challenge is just making sure that, you know, whatever water is being generated on site is being able to be infiltrated on site in a short amount of time. And for instance, if the soils are, you know, rank D class, obviously those infiltration rates are poor. And, you know, you just got to basically do the calcs and numbers to see how much water and how much quantification you're going to get with that, and then be conservative about it. And, you know, I think once that if it works to your benefit, you know, the wetland might need to be expanded. I don't know, you know, that you're creating. I'm just saying that I'd rather you be on the safe side rather than the sorry side, because, you know, I don't want to have to be going out here, you know, to the HOA or whoever, and then having to basically come back and, you know, fix this whole situation, you know, 2 years down the road.
Yeah, and each of these detention systems, they're built in with a foot of freeboard. So they're designed right now, the height of water is a foot below the top of the system as designed.
Where is the nearest abutter on, as it's being displayed, would be to the right of your project?
The nearest would be to the right, because the nearest would be here.
Well, I understand, but the wetland system that you're dumping your detention basin into,
Yeah.
the abutter to that wetland system would be my primary concern. And you know, if it's a long, long way out, fine, but I don't know that area well enough to be able to tell you who
So
lives
there-
next door. Yeah, because
There's a house.
they see there are lots.
There's a house back here.
Yeah, that's a long way out, that
Yeah,
one.
I
But I don't know these other two lots.
I don't have the exact distance from here to here. I can put on an approximate based on GIS for the next renditions of plans. I'm not sure exactly where this house is.
Yeah, but I think, you understand what we're saying, is you.
No, I
Your
understand.
your overflow is a wetland. And the question is, who's adjacent on the other side of that wetland, and are they gonna be impacted by your design here? Because you have two, the one in the back is less of concern because I think there's more breakout to the reservoir. But these two lots, I think you have to really demonstrate that you're not gonna adversely affect those people.
Yeah, there's four lots across Reservoir Street that are residential directly, that they don't show it obviously on these plans because it's not the project site, but there's, looks like for addresses, 41 Reservoir, 47 Reservoir, 43 Reservoir, and 53 Reservoir directly across the street. So, you know, I'm just concerned that if we have another 3-inch, 4-inch rainstorm that we had significantly, you know, from our most recent kind of event,
Yeah.
that this whole entire system that you're proposing may not work in that 24-hour span, and those people are going to be calling me, and they're going to be, you know, hounding me to basically talk to the HOA, and that shouldn't be my issue. This should be
Yeah.
kind of figured out. So, you know, I had just for recap, we did have some new construction on Reservoir Street where we had similar flooding issues because of kind of the same thing we're talking about here. So that's why I'm bringing it up. I just don't want that to be an issue for this area, this general vicinity, and, you know, have it be a you know, issue for the other neighbors as well. So
Yeah. So the systems are designed to handle 8 inches of rain over a 24-hour period. The 3 to 4 that we've gotten, that's about a 10-year storm. They're designed to handle the 100. The piping in the streets designed to handle the 25-year storm. That's typical engineering practice. And we have pipe sizing calculations to prove that those can handle it. So this, to overflow these systems, you'd have to be greater than 8 inches of rain in 24 hours.
Or back-to-back.
yeah, or back-to-back events, right? So
Yeah,
if you
so
have a
that-
3-inch storm,
yeah,
then a 4-inch storm that's close to it. So
Yeah, they're made to drain within 3 days. That's the standard.
mhm.
So if you get 8 inches of rain 2 days in a row, then which is very uncommon.
Yeah, or let's say we had, you know, what, a foot and a half of snow and then we had 60-degree weather the next day and it all melts, you know, and obviously, you know, it's different how you calculate the amount of snow melt, but you know, what I'm saying is that also compounds on a potential rain event that you potentially have at the same time. So, you know, we had that previously. So, you know, part of my thoughts to this is try to basically make a solution for all these potential issues that may arise before they actually become a problem. And, you know, like I said, it's probably just to prepare for the worst scenario. And, you know, I'm just trying to make sure that, for instance, because I know Reservoir Street's been problematic, you know, just to do all the, you know, calcs and everything and try to just be overboard with the conservative measures.
Yeah.
So if I can sort of crystallize what I think I'm hearing, it's sort of two similar questions with separate impacts that you're concerned about. John, sounds like, John, you're concerned about impact onto Reservoir Street itself.
Correct.
That developed wetland might overflow over top and come onto and flood onto Reservoir Street. Where it sounds like the chair is concerned about additional volume and velocity going across to the wetland that is shared with the abutting neighbor. And what's the volume, the change in volume, if any, associated with what's flowing into that wetland today, as opposed to what would be flowing in from one of these storm events from the man-made wetland. Is that? And in each case, we need to demonstrate that we're being conservative in our approach and solving for the, you know, as much as we can for the worst case scenario.
No, I would say we're not talking about separate things. We're talking about different variations of the same thing. And the question is, so John is concerned that it will not only break out and go onto Reservoir Street, but will flow across Reservoir Street into adjacent neighbors. And I am concerned that it will. I see. I don't know where that wetland that just sort of goes off the plan, what the extent of it is, and where it drains to it too. Does it have an unobstructed path getting to Norton Reservoir? In which case, I would be less concerned. But the underlying issue is the commission is quite familiar with the entire area, particularly with review of adjacent projects, that that there's no drainage there. It goes over land until eventually any water that collects on it drains away. And I think in a different area where there is potential drainage, we would be less concerned. But I happen to live on Reservoir some distance down, but I've observed in heavy rains events, it drains across Reservoir, down portions of Reservoir for 2 or 3 days. So we don't want to see exacerbation of that condition.
Right. And I will reiterate that is that Reservoir Street does not have, you know, our typical catch basin, drain manhole system, drainage system. And like Julian has indicated, that exacerbates any sort of rainstorm event. So, you know, in addition to that, I mean, you're going to get overflow into that wetland basin that you're creating from Reservoir Street. And, you know, depending on what the grades are in that location, those systems you have next to the street are going to collect any sort of runoff potential from Reservoir Street. So, you know, take that in consideration as well. I know that some other people didn't take that into consideration. They had some flooding issues last week. So, you know, that's something that I think needs to be kind of identified and kind of thought through as you guys progress through this process and, you know, work through this stormwater stuff.
Yeah. This is a very helpful comment. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions from commission members?
I have a couple, Julian.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you go to the plan that shows, I think it's the grading plan that shows the temporary stormwater basin, or a construction term basin?
It's the construction management plan. This one?
I think that was it, yeah. So in that back corner around that curve, it looks like you have about 7 feet of fill for the road.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're showing a temporary sediment basins, but effectively you're gonna wall that whole contributing area off when you build the road. So is your diversion swale then will just be from whatever's from the, I don't know what direction north is here, but from the east or the right-hand side of the road, correct? Because
So
the road-
this, yeah, when a road gets constructed, it'll pitch back towards catch basins that are supposed to be there.
We're not talking about construction term though. You don't
Yeah, and
say-
they can install, and you can install like, catch basins early in construction and just put sediment control in them and have them be directed to the sedimentation basin. But
No,
Yeah,
you actually don't want to rely on your, depending on what's exposed. So now you're gonna do each house separately. So now, John Thomas, we're gonna have to track, when you're building each house, what sediment controls devices they're gonna have to use in those catch basins, because you don't wanna send, so for instance, if you're clearing 20,000 square feet for a house, to build a house, and you're exposing all that soil, you don't want that to go into your catch basins, because then
yeah, and it's typical for the building permits to have the erosion control plans for each, when you go to build the house, and they'll put the,
yeah, well,
So-
we're
So,
gonna-
so just so we're aware, the building department doesn't do that. So,
So-
everything is handled through the stormwater agent, which is myself. So,
Yeah.
just make sure that we're in talks and we're on the same page, because like I said, stormwater permit's gonna be needed for any of the houses, so you guys are gonna split this in 2 phases.
yeah, so when we do try to pull the permits for the houses, you'll see a set of plans with an erosion control plan, and there'll be silt sacks within the downstream catch basins, typically what we show, with sediment control surrounding the limit of work.
Right, so but then who's, I mean, so if it
So-
takes you a year to build out all those houses, now you're gonna do it piecemeal. You're going to, extract that material from the basins after every house is built. I'm just not seeing that. Usually it's done holistically, and you don't rely on your catch basins for construction term runoff.
It's pretty typical to have the road constructed before the houses
No, I
and
understand that.
subdivisions.
Yep, no, I understand that. But
Right, so here's my thought is how this is gonna go down, I guess. Phase 1 is gonna be road construction, build the road, finish that up. Phase 2 is gonna be another round of the stormwater permit, where you're gonna get all the load out of all the houses, general footprint. And then, for instance, if there's any modifications to any of those lots, the subset of that is gonna be a separate permit. So for instance, you're just making it a little bit more complicated, but for instance, one general permit for all 14 lots, to cover the whole thing, it's gonna have to get peer reviewed again, but that's just the process that's gonna happen, so.
okay, and you have to just look at each lot on its own merit to make sure that everything is set up to handle potential sediment. Okay,
Right.
let's get back to this temporary basin. How, right now I'm just seeing that, and not seeing it graded out. So how does the contractor know, how did you size that? Did you size it? And I think it needs to be sized for the EPA construction general permit, and it actually needs to be graded out. Because the contractor is gonna look at this and think, well, okay, like I can measure this, it's 20 by 30. How deep is it? What does the outlet look like? So I'm gonna defer you to the EPA construction general permit criteria for sizing that temporary basin and for the outlet. And you need to show some grading on it so the contractor can carry that as part of the cost.
Yeah, and that's typically done in the SWIP permit. This is a permitting set. We haven't gotten into construction level drawings quite yet. So there'll be a construction set made for the contractors so
So
they
we
can construct.
need to approve that as part of the SWIP. So you're gonna do a SWIP for us, correct, prior to construction?
Yeah, it's either me or the hired contractor. Yeah.
Right, but you cannot leave the sizing of this basin up to the contractor. So
No, it won't be left up to the contractor. We'll produce a construction set of drawings.
well, I guess I'm asking you to advance this one piece of the construction set so that we can be assured that that basin is sized correctly. That should show up on these plans. Write out the detail as well for the EPA CGP, please.
Yeah.
And then you just have a wattle surrounding that total slope.
No, 12-inch wall and silt fence together.
Okay, can you go to your detail on those controls for a second?
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely need to see how that basin is sized. Okay, where am I here? Okay. So your the wattle detail. We no longer put the stakes through the wattles themselves because the wattle becomes compromised immediately. So you want to just bolster it on either side at a 45-degree angle.
All right.
And the crushed stone exit, I did not see a stone size on that.
It is, I believe it's on it. Could be in the notes.
It says 1 inch, 2, and then I couldn't read it. And 1 inch is way too small.
Yeah, it looks like it got deleted out. I can adjust that. But what
Okay,
size
so
stone would you prefer?
Your stone size should be 3 to 5 inches. 1 inch
3 to-
does not shake sediment off of the tire, because you end up grinding it in immediately. And then I want you to also note somewhere in here, we've had this over and over and over. Every contractor puts it in once and thinks they're done, and they're not. They need to refresh it. They need to backblade it. They need to replace the stone at times when it becomes clogged, because we've seen a
Yeah.
tremendous amount of tracking.
So if you see note 1 on the details, and then we also have a detailed erosion and sedimentation control plan that was part of the report that
Okay,
has it also in it.
okay. You need to strike the word hay bale from all your details. Hay bales aren't allowed anymore for EPA, so you have it in note 4 here. And if you also go to your dewatering basin pit detail, which I assume you're gonna need a few around the site, there's a reference to hay bales. We do not allow hay bales, nor does EPA.
So yeah, those can be replaced with the mulch wattle.
Oh, with the what?
With the mulch wattle instead of the hay bale.
Okay, or straw bale.
Yeah.
Don't allow the hay because of invasive species.
I would just do a find replaced with hay and just replace it with straw. It's easier that way. Keep all the details.
And then temporary seeding notes, we'll expect to see somewhere else on this plan as, maybe not this plan. Well, look, this does have side slope grading on the road. So as part of the, if it's not on your SWIP already,
So I believe, I want to say I have something with temporary seating on this plan. My computer's freezing up. Here we go. So I have some detailed erosion and sedimentation control notes on the second page.
okay,
I don't know exactly where it is in those notes, but we also have the erosion and sedimentation control plan, which I can add more detailed seeding plan if requested.
we definitely need them on, one set.
Yeah,
Whatever set we approve, so we can approve it for the record.
so right here in note 3 and 4,
Okay.
seems to be,
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, and then you said this was gonna be private and not public, correct?
we will be looking to have it accepted. It's designed to meet the planning board requirements and DPW requirements. We're gonna have an HOA prior to it being accepted. And they'll be looking to have it accepted. If it doesn't, then it stays in the HOA and the HOA is responsible.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So any further questions from commission members? And I don't see other people in the meeting with hands up, but any any butters or anyone in the meeting, now's the time for questions if you have questions. And if there are not questions, this is a problem in my estimation. This is a problem project because of the proximity of neighbors that can be impacted by a defective design, and the fact that, and I would be less concerned with that if I wasn't personally aware of just how much of that area is underlain closely by ledge, which really limits the amount of water that can be accommodated. So we have to be sure. I mean, that's primarily our job, is to be sure that when development happens, neighbors don't get adversely affected with runoff. And right now, I haven't seen enough information to convince me that this won't do that. So that's a personal concern, and as a representative of the town. So we've got a lot more to hear about from this project. The next meeting of the commission is the 12th of February, or we can continue it until beyond that. What's your preference?
It more relates to when the peer review will be done, because if there's no point in having another meeting before the peer review, I don't believe. So it's when we get the peer response from the peer reviewer.
Well, the meetings we have lined up are the 12th of February, 26th of February, the 11th of March, and 25th of
I
March.
say we'll go for the 26th of February. I think that'd be more, give us time, the peer reviewer time, and us time to review their work and to respond.
And also
That's what I was going to recommend.
also to respond to the comments that we heard tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to continue to the 26th of February.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Paxton. Roll call vote, beginning with Lisa and Paxton,
Aye.
Aye.
and Mark and Tama,
Aye.
Aye.
and Dan.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, so we'll talk to you guys again in a meeting, at least, in February 26th.
Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. Next item on the agenda, again, a new hearing, does not have a file number. It's an NRAD for 0 Crane Street, map 29, parcel 9-3. Do we have a representative of the applicant?
Evan Watson here.
All right.
All right, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's Evan Watson, W Engineering. And we filed an ANRAD to delineate wetlands on a property on Crane Street and Pine Street. As you noted, we did not get a file number just yet, so
But you have a plan, you can share with us, I assume.
I do. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, you see, I'm just showing you where the project is here. This is Google Earth, so it's right at the corner of Pine Street and Crane Street, right in here. To bring up the plan, property is about just under 12 acres by 11.8 acres. It's owned by Riley Mealy family. And Longbill Homes is looking to purchase the property and develop it. So we had Brian Madden from LEC go out and delineate the wetlands. So I show the topography here on the site, and you can see it's all pit and mound in here. There was earth removal operation done in the past. And that's because all the soils are really great. They're really sandy. They're Windsor soils. I've done test pits throughout the site, and that confirms it. They're all nice, deep, sandy soils. So the wetland resource areas we have on the site, shown by the A series of flags, so zoom in here. It At first, looks like an isolated wetland. It's just this hole in the site where everything on this property flows into. But there is a culvert here that connects it across the street, so this would be a BVW. And as such, we get a 100-foot buffer zone. The other resource area that we had delineated was the edge of the 3 Mile River with the mean annual high water line here. There is an associated floodplain, but it's not on the site. It's just along the edge of the river. And then there is an associated BVW with that as well. So we'll have a 100-foot wetland buffer, and then the 200-foot riverfront area that comes onto the property here. Across the street, there's 2 certified vernal pools, and those are off the property. So I don't know if anybody from the commission or your consultant has visited the site yet and taken a chance to review the line. But if not, we would be asking for the line to be reviewed and to answer any other questions that you might have.
Yeah, I took a walk out there last week. Obviously, there was snow cover on the ground. I'd like to see kind of what the conditions are with the upcoming rainstorm. But since there's no, number for this project, I think we can wait 2 weeks. But at the same point, it is the winter, so. But it based on my field evaluation for winter time, I had no issues with the flags as they're currently shown. But I'd like to go out there again and see kind of what the scenario is under a storm. So.
And just a comment on the hatched area in the rear of the property, what is that, natural heritage or?
That's right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I neglected to talk about this area. So there is a natural heritage priority and estimated habitat polygon that comes onto the site through here. So when we do file a notice of intent, if we're doing any work in that zone, we'd be filing with them. I do think that LEC has filed a information request form, but we haven't heard anything back yet.
I guess it's turtles.
Usually is, yeah.
So, Evan, when did LEC flag the wetland?
It wasn't that long ago. It was a couple months ago. It was right before we did the survey. So if I scroll down to his report.
So it wasn't a winter delineation?
No, it was done in the fall.
Okay.
It wasn't with all the snow on the ground or anything. No, it was nice and clear. No, site evaluation November 28th. So technically winter, but the ground was clear, not frozen. They did it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so things seem fairly delineated, and but we need to await the number. So we're looking for a motion for continuation, I presume, at this point, unless there are any further questions from anybody.
Is there any comments from the public?
Yes, we have a hand up, I see. Mr. At least the computer labeled Neil Dion, so go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm not in a butter. I live at 171 Pine Street, right there, correct? I have a couple things I want to talk about. First is the application. And if you could bring up the application, Mr. Watson. Where the signatures are for the applicant and the landowner, the signatures are incorrect. You have Francis signed as the applicant, which he represents the trust. You have Leo something or other. I can't.
That's the Castignetti. Yep.
He signed as the property owner, but he dated it in 2004. So I don't know how much that is an issue. If anybody
2024.
So if that's an administrative thing, it should absolutely be fixed. You're correct.
We can fix that. Yep.
Okay. So that's all I have for the application. Now, on the map, where that swamp is, that wetland area, does anybody know that that has been assessed for the endangered species that is located at the bottom of the map? Or any other one?
That's a really good question, because the polygons that are mapped by Mass Natural Heritage aren't exact. And in fact, that polygon of endangered species could in fact spread and cover that BBW. And the fact that it's estimated habitat typically means that it's some set of priority, but it also indicates it's usually a wetland.
Right.
So did LEC look at, well, we should probably wait until NESHAP opines to figure out what the species is, and then perhaps have LEC go back out to see if there's any evidence of whatever the species is in that wetland?
There is a
Yeah, a couple things. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, it's not necessarily typical that the priority habitat or estimated habitat is associated with a wetland. For instance, if it's a box turtle, or if it's types of salamanders or a plant, etc., they might be in upland areas. You know, that's why everybody is such a green. And then at this time, you know, I show it here on the plan, but during the ANRAD process, there's typically not an evaluation for that. We're not required to submit to Natural Heritage at this time. When we propose to do any work, and we would be filing a notice of intent, and there is a section on the notice of intent application which requires filing with Natural Heritage, which then gets their review, and they would, you know, opine whether or not this was important to them or if it's what kind of species, etc.
Yeah, this project would probably potentially go in front of Natural Heritage. It would be submitted with them concurrently, that it would be submitted to DEP and the commission. So if they had any sort of concerns or objections to the development potential for the future of this property, they would make it known.
Would that be a requirement to conduct perk tests as well?
For which what?
For that area where the habitat is located?
Were there perk tests investigated or explored within that area?
Well,
Yes.
Yes.
We did do perk tests on this property. Perk tests in the act, they're allowed as a data finding activity. And so a notice, it's basically classified as an activity that's exempt from regulated areas. So we did do perk tests through here, and we did not file, but again, that's routine and that's allowed in the act.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's at the jurisdiction of the Concom if you're going to basically going through a regulatory area such as the 100-foot buffer. So notification usually to the commission or the conservation department usually goes with that. So, I mean, if you're going to disturb an area, you know, cut trees down, obviously that's not something that we want to see. But if you're going in with a small mini excavator to do testing and stuff, you know, for egress to get to some sort of locations, and that's usually, you know, exceptional or, you know, something that can be accepted. You know, I will let you guys know that if testing was done for, you know, septic or stormwater, then, you know, that needs to be witnessed by Chris Honor, the board health agent, and myself. So I just want you guys to be aware of that in the future.
Well,
If we did do perk tests, witness with the Board of Health.
Okay.
yeah, the trees were removed. It was cut out through the forest area right here with a large excavator. And it was dug right behind Lois Mossman's house. That
Yep.
clearing,
Over here.
Yeah.
Did some over here.
So you guys cleared some vegetation in the riverfront area?
no, it's on the habitat area.
No, we stayed outside the 100-foot buffer zone, and we stayed outside of the 200-foot riparian zone.
So you guys got access off of Pine Street over by Mr. Dion's house, is that correct?
No, we came in through the field. So just to look at the aerial photograph, if you see this large field, there's an existing road that comes through here.
Mhm.
We're able to come through this way. and then came in through the back, so we didn't have to go through Riverfront or any Hartford buffer zone.
Okay, so you were able to use an accessory kind of cart path to kind of get to the locations that you're looking to get to?
For this location, and then we blazed in a little bit this way.
Right, okay. So I guess then,
I think blazed in is a little inaccurate. And I'm sorry to step on Neil. Louis Tenor, I live at 54 Crane Street. I am also in the butter. And I could literally drive my GMC Sierra truck down the path they made.
so how big of the area do you think you guys created?
We just moved in with the excavator, and then we opened up an area that was big enough to do the test pits.
Okay, I'll take a look at it when I go back out there and you know, give you my 2 cents. Obviously, you know, anything within, you know, proximity to resource areas and stuff, I usually like to be contacted. So moving forward with any sort of projects that you have here in Norton, just make sure to contact me. Okay.
Yep, very good. I was under the assumption that the septic permit went through your office when we applied for the perk tests, but
I don't remember if it did, but I'll double check. Yeah, because usually I like to know the pathway of where you guys are getting access and just kind of see where all your test pits are.
Yep.
And then obviously you guys are thinking about putting in septic, so for the potential houses that are going here. So, you know, if you guys are looking at the subsurface conditions too, I mean, this is going to be a subdivision project then. So you guys are going to need to get a stormwater permit, you know, when you come in with the storm, either separately, you know, you just heard the previous, you know, project that we had, they're building the road first. So if you decide to do that first versus, you know, building the houses along with that, then, you know, just be prepared to, you know, go through the process of a notice of intent and then file a stormwater permit separately, or do it all together and just build your whole design to meet all those performance standards.
now that makes sense. Just, we don't have to show any proposed work here, but this
No, I know.
project, we're planning on having, these are all Form A lots,
Okay.
so there's no subdivision road. We wouldn't normally go for a stormwater permit for Mass state standards, being 4 houses. But, you know, we will be going for the stormwater permit through the local bylaw.
Okay, sounds good, guys.
So just review for me again, what the total acreage of the upland in this site?
I don't have a number on the total upland, but the total acreage is 11.8 acres.
And just guesstimating, it looks like that wetland area could be, I don't know, 3 maybe?
Yeah, I could probably get an area off of here if I. Oh, that's the wrong tool, but yeah, we'll call it 3 or 4. Yep.
So, all right. All right, any further questions or comments?
Up to.
Okay. So if not, so I guess again, the specific issues, first we need a number, but also a little more information on the natural heritage, I won't say encroachment, but classification on part of the site. Our next meetings are the 12th of February, 26th of February, or the 11th of March. Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I'm all set. It's just a matter of what John wants to do. If he thinks the 12th is enough time to see what he needs to see.
No, I think the 12th is sufficient. I mean, obviously, we're just waiting on that number. Like I said, you know, I'm okay with the flags as they are under winter conditions. I just want to see what the site conditions are after a storm too. So, you know, it kind of gives me a sense if there might be any sort of other issues or any other expansion areas that we should take into consideration.
Could I just ask Evan, there was 4 lots proposed here, is that still the case?
Yeah, there was no.
That's not a topic for this permit.
Okay.
That's all right. That's okay. That's not currently proposed, but I think, the intent is once they do secure an ANRAD, they will be coming in for another potential project, notice of intent application through the Conservation Commission. And at that time, we will be accepting public comments on the potential development of this property.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So it sounds like we're now ready for a motion for continuation for the 12th.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
Went by too fast. Why don't we do it again? So again,
So moved.
Second,
okay, we have a motion by Dan, seconded by Lisa. Roll call vote, starting with, I'll change my screen immediately. We'll go with Tama and Mark
aye.
Aye.
and Braxton and Lisa
Aye.
Aye.
and Dan.
All right.
And I will throw in an aye, the motion carries, so we'll talk to you guys again on the 12th of February.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'll see you on the 12th.
You bet.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda are continued public hearings. On the first items actually go together, file numbers 1129 and 1130. Mansfield Avenue, lots C and D. The applicants are requesting continuance until the 12th of February.
So moved.
Second.
We have motion by Dan, seconded by Paxton. Roll call vote, starting with Dan and Paxton,
Aye.
Aye.
and Mark and Tama
Aye.
Aye.
and Lisa.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, the motion carries. Both of those are continued until the 12th of February. The next item is file number 250-1136, notice of intent 0 Eddy Street Share Corp. On my agenda, it says requested continuation until the 26th of February.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Dan, seconded by Paxton. Roll call vote, Paxton and Dan. How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Mark and Tama
Aye.
Aye.
and Lisa?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, that motion carries. Next item is certificate of compliance for file number 250-1033, which is a project on Plain Street. Comment, John?
This was a single family house construction. They had delays with COVID a little bit, so they finally finished construction and they put up the visual barrier fence. This was when Jennifer was around, so they put the fence in, installed the placards. Site looks good. Obviously there's snow on the ground, but I did kick away some of the snow and did see that there was grass underneath, which is a good sign. He was honest with me. He said it was probably 75% covered with grass, but he'll definitely do whatever he needs to do to reseed it come spring. I said 75% is good at this time, but just be basically up on it because it's your property. So, it's his, he wants to make sure that his site's stabilized. But I had no issues with, granting them a certificate of compliance, and that's why I suggested they, file the request.
So this would be a full certificate of compliance for file 250-1033.
Correct.
I'll make a motion to issue the full COC for 250-1033. Second.
Motion made by Lisa, seconded by Tama. A roll call vote beginning with Paxton and Dan,
Aye.
Aye.
and Mark and Tama,
Aye.
Aye.
and Lisa.
Aye.
I'll throw in an aye, the motion carries. And the next is file number 250-1097, certificate of compliance, 196 Mansfield Avenue.
So that one was the large warehouse facility across from the McDonald's, if everyone remembers that project. I can actually pull it up on screen. Just give me 1 second.
So they've actually completed all that stabilization?
Oh yeah, they hydroseeded it and everything. It looks fantastic. They did a very good job. They actually were very dubious in their efforts with trying to get the stabilization. I was actually very impressed with their efforts. So there was a small section that they needed to fix, but besides that, the site met the 75% coverage criteria. But let me just pull up the plan so we all can remember this. And all the sign visual barrier things were in, so that was a good thing. Let me just share my screen.
I mean, I think most of us have seen that because it's right on 140.
Oh yeah, can
With
everyone?
a lot of traffic. It's been yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of activity there.
Right.
Actually, there has been right across the street, but that's another.
But based on the materials that we received and was requested from them, they presented and provided all the documents, SWIPs, and everything to us that we needed to have for records. And from what I'm standing at, I had no reason to say that they're not basically applicable to request a COC, and they're in front of us right now.
All right. Sounds like we're in line for a motion.
I'll make a motion for 250-1097 to accept the COC or close the COC. Sorry.
No, it would be approve the certificate to
Issue the COC.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have a motion made by Tama, seconded by Lisa. Roll call vote beginning with Paxton and Dan.
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark and Tama.
Aye.
Aye.
And Lisa.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So the motion carries. So all of these places getting rented, it seems like, I mean, how many million square feet of warehouse space are being opened up? And
I asked the developer, or the developer's consultant, if they had a tenant for the property, and I guess they're still working on one. So I don't know. It's an investment, I guess. I don't know. If you have the money,
I guess if they're all getting rented, it tells us the economy is still buzzing. I think we're next at the order of conditions. Okay. So 0 West Main Street is the two, I guess they're commercial, or are they residential buildings near Oak Street?
Residential housing, to my knowledge.
John, would you mind calling that up on the screen? I had about half dozen comments on that.
Yeah, it's new. Yeah, I know.
You first need to read it.
I know. I was trying to consolidate. Okay, can everyone see this?
Yes, we're on A, number 1, special conditions. So, questions?
Lisa, do you want to go first, since you said you have a bunch?
Yeah, I think it was the first one under C. It was staking. Where was that? Oh, limited. Okay. So the term, the limited work shall be field. So field located means you're going to locate something by survey that's already there. So the term shall be field staked.
Okay.
Or staked in field, and then typically an engineer is not registered to survey, but a surveyor is. I don't care if we leave surveyor in there, but there's actually,
So that's the question is, there are engineer firms that do survey, but they, obviously need to have a licensed
yes,
engineer. So I guess the question is, you want to just registered land surveyor because they're the ones that are usually practicing it?
yeah, and it's actually, and not to be technical, but there's no such thing, the term in Massachusetts is, not RLS, it's PLS, so it's professional land surveyor. It's always referred to as a PLS
Where did I? Oh, professional.
instead of registered, yeah. Okay. 14. What did I have on there? 14. 14. Why do I have the word prohibited with a question mark? Let me see. 14. B. Oh, okay. Hay bales shall not be used as sediment controls and are prohibited. I would just end it right there. It's really, are prohibited.
So you want to say are prohibited?
Or you would put hay bales are prohibited and shall not be used. One or the other, right, Dan P? Where does?
Well, since you mentioned my name, you can join hay bales if you want.
Okay, there you go.
But hay bales,
Okay,
yeah, you can join up hay bales. You don't even need a dash. And yes, are prohibited.
okay,
And
okay. 16. All right, undercarriages, blah, blah, blah. I don't know why we say before bringing the equipment onto the site. It should be when they're leaving the site, right? Well, yeah, I don't care what they do before they come in. it's
Well, I mean, I guess the thing is, are they bringing any sort of untreated things before they enter? I guess that's the question. I mean, yeah, I guess so when they're leaving, because I don't want to be monitoring that. So, yeah, so when they're following
prior to exiting the site, be the stabilized exit.
yeah, let me just read this.
you just say before.
What's that?
Before leaving the site.
Yeah, before equipment leaves the site. Oh, no, right, you had it.
Oh, you said
Or similar method before equipment leaves site, that's all.
In fact, you don't even have to say equipment because you say it earlier.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? Is that in conjunction with the riprap construction entrance? That's
Yes, yes. So you wash it, you rinse those tires down if they had an extraordinary amount of sediment on them, and then you would run it over the stabilized exit. This is our boilerplate.
Because it would depend on the weather conditions.
21.
Yep.
Okay, more than 100 feet from BVW, but what about a flood zone or riverfront?
So instead of BVW, I'll say wetland, locally jurisdictional resource area.
Locally jurisdictional resource area is only 25.
No, that's any resource area.
I would just say a
Regular resource area.
Okay. We jump down to 32. No sedimentation into wetland water body in the town or roadways. From discharge pipes So this has nothing to do with tracking them.
No, this basically says that any sort of, there'll be no, because I'm having lots of issues with sedimentation going off sites. So I want to make sure that, for instance, people know that when they have this, they have to monitor their sites.
Okay, so.
This has nothing to do with tracking. This
Okay.
this basically is just a condition saying no sedimentation can go off site.
So like a rainstorm or something, you don't want water going off site.
Right. And I want to make that known clearly that it's
Okay.
not okay, even though it should be a known kind of case.
Okay, we want to get rid of hay bales. 33.
33.
Disc.
Did I have hay bales in here?
Oh, you do, you choked.
Where?
Double row of hay bales, last statement.
Oh,
Hay
straw
bales.
bales. Sediment controls.
Yes, thank you, even better. And the last comment I had was on 38.
Mm-hmm. Which was dumping.
Yeah, so do we want to limit that to the 25? Do we want to say the flood, again, already?
That's why that was highlighted. I wanted to ask you guys to see what your thoughts were with this one, because these are going to be perpetual conditions.
Well, but the average person looking at it,
Mhm.
owns this thing, is not going to know where the flood zone is on the ground. That's the
Right.
problem.
Right. So how about we say visual barrier? Thoughts?
Beyond, or beyond the visual barrier.
Yeah.
Okay,
Instead of the 25-foot buffer zone, because we're always usually going to have a visual barrier. So strike the 25-foot no disturbance zone and put visual barrier.
or leave it and say in or visual barrier. I mean,
Okay.
in every case we have,
Yeah.
okay. That's all I had.
Okay.
But I think in this planning, the case is that I think the visual barrier with the road, so anything beyond driveway will be, I think that's kind of a visual barrier there.
Yeah. Oh, this is more general, Michael. It's going to apply to our general conditions, everyone going forward, not just.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So this was kind of with the new year that came around, you guys are basically going through the test phase of me basically kind of trying to cut a lot of the fat out of our old order special conditions. So if there's anything, obviously this is a live kind of situation, but we're issuing an order tonight. But this is kind of the template that I'm kind of going to roll with, because I feel that it runs a little bit better because the titles basically tell you what you need to do at certain kind of sections of the project.
Yeah.
So that way, for instance, if you're, if the contractor or the applicant or the people that are looking at this project from a field review are wondering, what do I do under certain circumstances? Well, this kind of has certain sections that you can go to kind of see what you need to basically be concerned with.
So-
and
Yeah,
I-
it's pretty.
I like the new format, John. It's a lot cleaner and easier to follow.
What are the findings?
So I cut out the findings. So that's kind of the question that I wanted to give. I wanted to talk. I know.
I would
So,
not do that.
so
Why? Because we have no memory sometimes of why we made a specific decision. Right? And, but so for instance, the project that just came in front of us tonight, how do you do a finding in that notice of the order of conditions that says this work only approves the roadways? I mean, I would much rather see that in a sentence up front than to try to think back, what was approved under this order? Why would we take out findings?
a lot of other commissions don't have findings. Some of them do not in their special conditions.
It's not good. That personally is not good enough for me. I find them extremely helpful to go back to at some point in time to say, oh yes, this is what this included, this is what this excluded in black and white. Because the plans, think about this, the plans are not recorded at the registry of deeds. All the notes on plans, right? The only thing that's recorded at the registry is this order. I think it's super important to have findings.
That is something else that we can do, is have them record the plan with the order of conditions.
That can cost a boatload.
It's not that expensive. No, it's like only $150 or something.
Yeah, but then isn't it by the plan sheet and size?
I think it's I have to double check, but I think it's 150 plus, yeah, it's not, I've recorded condo docs and stuff.
Again, I'm sorry, Michael, this is global, this isn't just for your project, so. we're having-
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay.
So to satisfy this, why couldn't we just add a paragraph labeled findings ahead of the special conditions? Then it's kind of an introductory paragraph just to highlight what is relevant, exactly relevant to this project.
I just think it's really important because it used to lay out what resource areas were on the site. So for instance, if they hadn't determined what the flood zone was, right, we would have written, this does not affirm the flood zone if they didn't come forth with any info. I think it's one of the most important parts of an order of condition, personally. But
Okay. All right. So then I can enter in the findings here with basically all the resource areas, basically from the boilerplate that we typically have.
yeah,
The only difference is obviously, some of this stuff was basically, it was a little bit more redundant because a lot of the information's already in the permit application when they come in with the stuff. But then when we fill out the paperwork and stuff on the form, the plan information's there. The final plan is already on there. When it was issued is already on there. The only thing that isn't on there is basically the type of work is usually on we list out what the type of work is in there, but then the only thing that changes is the resource areas and confirming those.
so John, I'm putting my consultant hat on, and I'm doing research on a project, and I'm looking at the registry of deeds. Again, there's no plans attached. I can pull up that order, and I can see exactly what was found on the site and exactly what was approved in 2 sentences. I don't have to go to town hall. I don't have to get the plans. It's extremely useful, I think. Just two.
And it can be brief, I think, yes?
Yeah, just two
Yeah.
sentences. Two
No,
findings,
and
right?
I think that's fine. I mean, I can add the resource areas and I can add what was approved for this project.
Exactly.
And, if there were other considering findings for this project, then we can definitely add those. But I just want to be able to limit the amount of redundancy that we had because it was getting kind of a little bit long. We almost had 70 conditions on, a small scale project. And I thought that was kind of getting a little bit too much.
I would tell you to get rid of half of the back end of it before I tell you to get rid of the findings.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll retrofit this tomorrow morning and just add in our typical kind of wetland resource areas that were confirmed, and then just add in the other sentence on what was approved.
Exactly. And the reason I think it's really important is, again, if there's something that's excluded that we need to keep track of, and we look at this someday and go, oh,
Right.
yeah, that didn't include this.
Well, kind of like riverfront calculations and things of that nature, just to keep track
Exactly.
of it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. We had to do the percentages so that someday we go back and say, oh, they already hit 10%. So,
Right.
I mean, I don't think it should hold this up right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, these are things that are already well elucidated in the whole hearing process.
Yep.
So it's just a matter of a simple summary sentences.
Yep.
And, but it sounds like we may be ready for a motion on this at this point.
I make a motion to issue the ordered conditions as discussed for file 250-1142.
Second.
We have a motion made by Lisa, seconded by Paxton for issuing the order of conditions as discussed for file 1142. Roll call vote beginning with Lisa and Paxton.
Aye.
Dan and Mark.
Aye.
Aye.
And Tama?
Aye.
I'll throw in an aye. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a parallel question.
Go ahead.
Should I, for the sake of the minutes, Lisa, do you want me to detail, right now I have a sentence that says, Caressa had professional and grammatical comments on the conditions.
I would say, organizational and clarity suggestions were decided upon, as
Okay,
discussed.
so,
You don't need to go into depth in each specific condition, Dan.
okay.
So our next item on the agenda is also an order of conditions for file number 250-1132, notice of intent, 6 Mary Jo Road for Mark Mariano. It's a single family house. Order.
Just to clarify to the commission, I'm going to take all of Lisa's previous comments and translate those to this order tomorrow morning, and add the findings as well alongside that. I guess the question that I will ask the board is that, as we are kind of with these orders and stuff, do they find it, I guess, do we want to add like things about natural heritage in there, or do we want to just leave that they have to come in front of us, the commission? I'm asking to see, because what I'd like to do is basically have enough information in the order where if anybody's doing a title search or something like that, they can find that information. So in the findings, I guess I could add that it was identified that there was natural heritage areas on the site, species unknown, because we don't want to basically, let people know what the species is, but a natural heritage protection plan was going to be in place, for that. Or how do you guys want to go about doing that?
Joe, I would reference the polygon.
The polygon?
The polygon has a unique
PH, okay.
ID number.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
you don't see, in case you're looking it up, or you have to go back to Mass GIS and you're looking for that polygon.
right. Because I know natural heritage doesn't like that information to be public, so.
No, you would never do that. You would just
Yeah.
say the site is mapped as natural heritage, polygon 2350 or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then in the instance where a conservation and management plan applies, I would maybe put that as a finding.
Yeah.
So,
So those are the things that'll be in the findings, just so that way the board's kind of understands that. Is I'll add in kind of the same thing, resource areas that were identified. Same thing that, for instance, what was approved, and then go into the natural heritage section because that applies to this. I'm not going to basically bring up the turtle protection plan because that's one of the conditions that we kind of put in here as a recommendation for them to provide us before construction.
and in fact, Joe, you have the language in the agenda for what was approved, or what we're approving, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's basically what I'm going to take and then translate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I gotta say, organizing the orders in this manner is really, 10 times better as far as
So the feedback I received from a bunch of contractors was that it was very convoluted and a lot of people got lost in their orders when it came to the construction side, and they just basically didn't read it. So I'm trying to, basically give everybody kind of a brief snapshot as to the certain stages of construction and how they basically relate to the construction side. So that way they can just say, okay, this section need to follow this, and they can run a tally basically is what they need to do.
Yeah, I think it's basically in their vocabulary and now they will read it.
Yeah, I hope so.
John, do you have a reference to the SWIP in there?
This one, did I request this? No, I need to request a SWIP for this one. Thank you, Lisa.
Oh, no, I also meant, did you read the condition in about, well, I guess we only write it in if they owe it to us.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, if they only owe it to us.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And that's is that in post-construction or in other?
That is a condition that's supposed to be in here if they require a SWIP.
New construction.
This one, I believe. Yeah, so.
Or would it be in perpetuity?
Well, for a SWIP,
yeah,
it's going to be during the construction phase.
Well, it's pre-construction.
Pre-construction, yeah.
they haven't given it to us. That goes
Right.
free, right? It's
Yeah,
a
free.
deliverable free.
Pre-construction meeting, yes. So for instance, I have a pre-construction meeting where they have to provide stuff to us. So they were supposed to do that and, well, not yet, but they will need to provide that information to us. So I say prior to commencement of any sort of land disturbance activities, they have to provide us the following information. So SWIP's in there along with the, natural heritage.
So
Triple
tell
B.
me the limitations of the SWIP again. I thought it did have some maintenance, long-term maintenance.
Right, the SWIP is the implementation and management of construction terms stormwater and erosion prevention. It's just a snapshot in time during construction. How do we manage runoff? How do we manage stormwater? Because what we're
So maintenance of the stormwater structures.
is the O&M as part of the stormwater.
Okay.
Yes, operation and maintenance plan that they usually provide alongside any sort of drainage report.
And so there's no condition concerning an operation and maintenance plan then.
For
No, that's
this,
approved with a stormwater. Well, it's approved with a stormwater report.
yeah, for this one, yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, now you've laid out the stages, so it's almost another boilerplate, so you can't call it special conditions anymore.
That's what I was thinking, because I was like, oh, these are all special conditions. Are those? I don't know. Well, no, you know why? Because DEP 1 through 14 are general conditions,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So when you look at a standard order of conditions, the first 14, I think, 13 and 14 are DEP standard conditions, like put the sign up, DEP has the right to enter the property, blah, blah, blah. And typically an order that a commission issues will start with condition 15, the next sequential one, and say, those are special conditions. I mean, they may be our boilerplate, but they're considered special conditions.
No, I understand. So,
Yeah.
But I mean, I think this organization is helpful to us as well as the construction people.
So we're looking for a motion? After all that?
I think so.
All right, I will make a motion to issue the order conditions for file 250-1132 as discussed.
Second.
Motion made by Lisa, seconded by Paxton for the order of conditions for file number 250-1132. Roll call vote starting with Lisa and Paxton. How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Dan and Mark
All right,
and Tama.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So the motion carries. I think we're up to minutes initially for December 11th. And
Can somebody pull those up for a second?
For 12-11,
Yeah, was that the one with the dictionary at the front?
yeah, it has glossary terms, both the Land Preservation Society and Title V.
hold on one second, let me pull them up.
one of them has turtles too.
Yeah, I'm just a little, oh, it wasn't this one, it was the next one. So, my concern is with actually the next set and not this one, but
Okay.
is the glossary, although it may belong here, it doesn't belong in the minutes per se, because the minutes are something that was discussed. So, this wasn't discussed, so you want to put it in the back, that's fine, but I don't think it should be the first thing. And where it really hit home was in the next set of minutes, when we started defining an air quality term, and I was like, my head was coming off, like, well, somebody picking this up is gonna say, what in the hell is the Norton Comcom looking at air quality regs for? So,
Well, you know, I think you may be getting. I mean, this is not the Supreme Court where you have to be these.
No, but Julie, if you think
But
about
the intent, this is a public record, and the intent is access to the information. So I agree with you that this is not what we went over, but it helps someone access the information we did go over. So that's.
okay,
I'm gonna have to agree with Chief Justice Kadish on that one.
if you look at the next set, you're starting to talk about air quality regs. And what the hell is this doing in here?
So, did we have any questions on these minutes while I have them up?
Well, the answer is yes, because on the next page under C, I'm listed as an abstention, and I mean, maybe I did, but I have no memory of this. Do you?
I will go back and.
I can't figure why I would have.
Oh, Julian, I think I was running the meeting at that minute.
Oh, you weren't in on time, Julian. That's what it was.
Oh, yes, I was having trouble getting into the meeting. That's right. All right.
Yep.
All right, I won't object then.
Okay.
That's, yeah, all right. You're right. Okay. All right, so we can consider a motion for minutes of December 11th.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
A motion made by Lisa, seconded by Tama, Lisa and Paxton. How do you vote?
Aye.
And Dan and Mark?
Aye.
Aye.
Huh?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. That one carries. And now we'll go to the air quality minutes of January 8th.
I don't remember writing anything about air quality. Anyway.
You did. Nisha.
Somebody mentioned that.
He provided a link though. That's helpful.
What is its relevance, I guess, is the question.
Well, somebody mentioned it at some point, didn't they?
No, the term is NESHAP, and that's what the industry standard reference is to NESHAP, NHESP. That's just what we call it. We pronounce it NESHAP.
Well, okay.
Oh.
Maybe that. Okay, well, so that's correct.
I would call it NHASP, but anyway.
Well, anyway, the whole consulting world calls it NESHAP. Just saying.
I just call it
Okay,
national
well-
heritage, to be honest with you.
All right. So the national emission standards, potentially that can be removed.
I think so.
Okay.
The other question I had, let's see, which one is this? Item C.
Item C
Item C,
with Mary Jo.
yeah, okay, so see how it says Mariano, I don't, and then it says Carosa, but it's not a budding wetland. I don't think I would have said a budding, I don't know what a budding wetland is.
I got it.
Is it an abutting wetland? Okay, thank you.
Oh.
You're welcome.
Okay. Dan, you had
Sorry,
me
Lisa.
laughing. You had me laughing, Dan. It's good.
It's budding at certain times of the year.
Yeah, but I mean, there could be, trees around it, maple trees that are budding in the, I don't know.
Absolutely. That's all I have.
Okay. Anybody else?
We may be ready for a vote, motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of 1/8/2024 as discussed.
Second.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Tama, Lisa and Paxton. How do you vote? Aye. Dan and Mark,
Aye.
Aye.
Anna,
Aye.
and I'll throw in an aye. Motion carries and the minutes are approved as modified. Temporarily lost my agenda. Are we up to,
Old business, new business
yeah,
discussion.
I might have permanently lost.
Report from staff.
Okay,
Report from staff is that we got a lot of rain. This not this past weekend, but the weekend before that, and yeah, caused a lot of havoc here in town. I'm sure everybody is aware of it driving through town. We had snow melt conditions, super saturated soil conditions, frozen ground, everything we don't want to see this time of year, and then we have that warm spell and rain, and a lot of it all in one kind of 24-hour period. So wreaked havoc, flooding and all sorts of issues all throughout town. So hopefully we don't have that anymore for this season, but we need to basically prepare for those kind of incidents. We had a select board meeting, I guess, last week to talk about some sort of flooding issues over near Barrowsville Pond. So that was a topic of discussion for the Barrows Court folks. They were flooded out completely. Had a lot of health and safety emergency personnel over there to help with the general public getting to and from their houses. They had to set up some sort of transfer going back and forth because the water was just too deep for any sort of car to pass through that egress or the basically
What
the
is
road.
that, John?
Barrows Court.
so has this ever happened before?
It has, just not to the extent that it has, I guess in recent years. I guess, when I was talking to Ron following the storm that we had, I had to basically, talk to him about Chartley Pond management and stuff and see if we can try to curl back the water that's coming out of Chartley to try to alleviate a lot of the issues that we're having with the downstream residents. And, he said that back in 1996, it was an issue. We had a huge storm. And then I guess in the mid 2000s, we had another one. So it seems like it happens, but not, often enough to be a concern. But we're looking at kind of certain avenues. Obviously, there's been discussions with what we can do with Barrowsville Dam, but that's a whole different topic of discussion because we don't own the dam entirely. But DCR thinks that we do. But the owner of the old Tweed building is the one that should take ownership of that. But, it's all, obviously it comes down to, their willingness to participate in the discussion to kind of alleviate any sort of flood issues that we're going to have in that general vicinity moving forward. And getting back to dam stuff, our corporation provided us a report for the Norton Reservoir. That's for everybody to take a look at your own convenience. I hope you read the whole 74-page document and are able to, because I'm going to quiz you next week or next 2 weeks on it. So Dan, read up. I'm going to ask you some questions. Maybe you can add some more glossary terms to the meeting minutes as well. Yeah, I also met with the folks that do the treatment for a lot of the ponds today with the select board in their office. So they're going to be coming back in front of the Conservation Commission. Their permits expire come, I think, May of this year. So they're going to be coming into the board for some either extensions or new permits. I don't know what their plan is, but I basically told them that if they're going to be changing their action plan, entirely new, I think they should come in with new permits. But if they're just modifying it slightly, if we recall, for instance, they amended their permits to have the treatment with Percelicor instead of the old sonar treatment that they were proposing, and the board, allowed them that kind of change with the amendment. So they're going to be coming in with a kind of a 5-year action plan. That's what I recommended to them. But then obviously the town needs to pursue contract renegotiations and contract RFPs and things of that nature. So they're going to have to basically go through the process with that. So because their contract's up this year. So that's kind of news. Besides that, just new construction, new things that are happening. A lot of construction happening over the winter. That's been somewhat kind of a hassle because of the storm that we had. Some folks have been, who weren't basically in our jurisdiction, may actually be in our jurisdiction. That's kind of why the enforcement order potential is on the docket for this evening, is that depending on the storm this week that we have, I need to make sure that the sediment controls and modifications that the applicant has made to their site are effective throughout the storm that we're going to have this week. If they're not, and I noticed that, for instance, sedimentation is actually getting to the wetland and also further down the street towards a running stream, then I told them that, for instance, we'd be issuing an enforcement order, and I'd be bringing it to the attention of the Conservation Commission if that was going to be the case. They have failed to basically have site containment, or they've had site containment issues for a running while now, and I've basically said that, you know, for instance, for stormwater enforcement, they have a long, lengthy enforcement penalty and fine running tally that they have currently. So, you know, in addition to that, they may have some wetland protection enforcement fines and penalties they'll have to follow too. So,
just not naming names. Why is that?
Not naming names. Why is that?
Well, I mean, it sounds like you're talking about a specific project.
I am talking about a specific project, but I'm not going to basically well, it's on the agenda as in what project it is. So
the two single family homes that have the issue with tracking.
yeah, that's the one that you've brought to my attention. Yeah, it's been a constant problem. I've talked to the civil site not contractor, but civil site engineer, who has basically advised their client of ways on how to mitigate any sort of potential runoff. And the applicant has just not been receptive to instilling those or installing those procedures. And finally, I was like, I had enough, and I told him that if you don't, like, if this gets to the stream, this gets to the wetland, it's not just, you know, stormwater that you're gonna have to worry about. It's also going to be the state, because this is an enforcement order, and if it goes in front of the state, you know, what we charge is $100 a day. Well, it's going to be potentially $30,000 a day if you don't fix it. So that's however the state wants to do it. So
well, not only the state, but it's under the acres, so EPA has no jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's
the issue I'm finding is that no one is implementing erosion prevention. Right? They're putting up the wattle, they're putting up the perimeter control. Well, the bottom line is that's the default, right? You're not supposed to let erosion happen so that it gets to the silt fence to begin with. You're supposed to. So in the fall, what they should have been doing was hydro seeding. And
I completely agree with you, and I've told them that. And for instance, you know, obviously I can't be the one that's out there, you know, hydroseeding the area for them, but, you know, you can suggest and recommend stuff as much as you want. It's the onus is on the applicants and everybody that comes in front of us to actually do that work. And if they don't follow the directive, then there should be consequences to be paid later on to, you know, ensure that, for instance, any sort of damages to, you know, nearby residents or any sort of other property damages that are made are rectified. I think it's
also have in the back in the wetland. I've done that before.
Yeah, and that's kind of my whole thought process is that, you know, obviously someone telling me that sediment and stuff was going to the wetland, and then me asking, oh, did you happen to take pictures? And they said no, and it's like, okay, well then, you know, I don't have any sort of evidence. So for instance, if it has been going there, then I need to basically go out at a certain time frame to go out there and investigate it. So unfortunately, you know, I wasn't there to basically see it. And, you know, that we'll just make sure that I'm able to, you know, witness it if it's actually occurring.
So this storm is particularly relevant then, this upcoming
storm is going to be relevant because we're supposed to get consistent rain over a certain period through this week, starting snow and everything starting tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon, and then heading all the way till Friday. So I guess there's supposed to be rain going all the way till Friday.
So it sounds like you may need a motion that if you witness a violation this week, the commission will issue an enforcement order, approve the issuance of enforcement order at 102 and 106 and or 106 Pine Street.
That's correct. That's what I'm looking for this evening.
That's the motion.
And a second.
Second,
So we have a motion by Lisa and a second by Tama to pre-authorize John Thomas to issue an enforcement order if the applicant who has been informed of the potential of a problem has a problem. Motion, roll call vote, Lisa and Paxton.
Aye.
Aye.
Dan and Mark.
Aye.
Aye.
And Tama?
aye.
And I'll say aye as well. So, we'll have to see what the rain brings.
John, I just had a quick question. I noticed, because I drive by here to go hiking, walking, 97 Crane Street is on a 50-acre lot. It's that old farmhouse. It's for sale. Where do we funds to buy it?
97 Crane Street.
97 Crane Street. It's 50 acres.
All right, so you want to hear the story behind this one?
Yeah, it's only 550.
Okay, you want to hear the story behind this one?
Yes, please.
So,
It's haunted.
no, it's not haunted. So, who's selling this property is the Riley Trust, and they're trying to get rid of it. So, here's kind of the kicker on this is that they haven't approached the town at all. They've been trying to go through all these private kind of sales with other folks. So, they haven't basically gone in front of us. So, most of the land that you're talking about is under an agricultural preservation restriction. So, and the thing is that if you look at the agricultural preservation restriction, is that the state paid the Riley Trust over $500,000 for that land. So,
For the development rights.
no development allowed on the property because it's an agricultural preservation restriction. So that land is going to be held in perpetuity forever as agricultural preservation. So the Riley Trust has, a select kind of, I guess, client
How did
base.
you raise a voice?
Excuse me?
Well, please identify yourself if you're talking to us.
That's the one talking to us.
I see it on the bottom, it says react.
Okay. So, John,
Okay.
It says reactants.
Maybe we can mute that attendant. 'Cause
Okay, got it.
doesn't seem to-
It looks like they've raised their hand.
Right.
So,
Oh, they do have a hand up. Okay. So, sir, you have a computer identified as GHHTH.
You are correct.
Yep. Do you have a question? Maybe you could identify yourself and ask your question.
I do. My name is Joseph Cavallo. I am the owner of Second Nature Farm Vegetable Grower LLC. And I lease the land from the Riley Family Trust.
okay.
So I am the leasing agent. I am informed of the APR.
Okay.
I have made the proper offers to purchase the land, which would supersede the 61 rights and supersede the OPAF rights of the state, which would allow me to purchase the land at agricultural fair market value. And the Riley Family Trust has not entertained them. We are in contact with the state, and we'll see where that goes. And the only reason I'm on here is because if there happened to be a purchase, then therefore I would be a butter of what is going on. So I have entertained and paid attention to what is going on with the adjoining property.
and I just happened to mention it out of the blue because,
Yeah, it wasn't even on our agenda, so that was the thing. I wasn't even going to bring it up because I've been contacted by a couple people who have been discussing about, potentially purchasing the property from them as a sale agreement. And I basically said to them, I said, well, I don't deal with the sales and purchases and sales agreements with stuff, but I do know that, for instance, because, I am the steward for the town for open space management. So, for instance, I know of all the properties in town that may have restrictions on them. We have
Correct, which are two.
yeah. So for instance, like we have potentially in town, 4 properties that are under APRs. 2 are owned by the Rileys currently, and then
one is owned by the town.
yeah, one is owned by a town. There's actually 2. One's a smaller parcel, but for instance, there's 2 parcels that make up about 53 acres. But then, for instance, we have multiple conservation restrictions. So, when people are asking me questions, and I'm like, they're asking me basically like, well, then they ask, oh, well, it looks like they're trying to sell this property. And I said, you should probably talk to them about the APR that's on the property, because I don't know the current status of where they're at with the state with currently any sort of sale of that property. So, that was kind of the interactions I had with the individuals that came into my office. I think I had 3 or 4 individuals, or 3 or 4 potential, 4 of them were folks that basically had, either a farm or any sort of husbandry or any sort of agricultural use that they were looking to basically bring into Norton. So, they were very interested. But I said, I don't know what the current status is with the current status of the land, who manages it, basically anything like that. So I said, most of that stuff gets ironed out when you do your purchase and sales with any sort of the potential buyer and seller. So I said, you might want to talk to them. And they were asking me, well, they say they don't have a copy of the APR. I said, well, it's on the registry of deeds. Here's basically the book and page. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. But that's basically where I've left it with everybody that's come to us. It's not my responsibility. It's a private, agricultural preservation restriction. So the town doesn't have any sort of,
Correct.
leeway to, yeah. So like,
You are correct, John.
Yes.
There is one inference where there could be some questionality because of the tax exception and tax
Right.
exemptness of 61. But if transferring within the agricultural laws, it supersedes the town's first right of refusal.
Right.
But because of it being an APR, state holds a lien on the deed.
Yep.
And because of that lien, it supersedes the town's right of first refusal, because the state has a deed that supersedes that, which means it is restricted to agricultural use.
Right. But if the use was going to change, then for instance, those sort of, I guess, that would change up the whole entire thing, because if it was going to get released, then for instance, all the taxes would need to be paid back. Correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Correct, but unfortunately with this deed, it is a lifetime restriction.
Right. So there's no way that any sort of development could occur on that property regardless.
Correct.
Yeah.
The state owns all rights with the exception of the only right that is left on the property is the right to farm. And the
Right.
farmer must then apply for any other right than the exact operations of farming. Even if you want to build a structure, that must be applied for. They own the mineral rights, they own the water rights, they own all rights except agricultural rights.
So John, then it wouldn't make sense to pursue it if it's going to be protected in perpetuity.
Yeah, that was kind of my whole entire
Okay.
sense with this. And
Okay.
you
I
know,
just didn't want to see it develop if it didn't mean to be.
no, and that's what I told a potential developer who was, under the impression that he could potentially build on it. I said, well, that's going to be quite the extensive, legal battle, because it's already protected in perpetuity with the APR. So I mean, good luck with that.
I didn't know all that, and I
Yeah.
thought, well, it's short change for 50 acres. We should try to buy it. So,
Right.
to keep
No,
it open.
understood. Yeah.
Correct, Lisa. Lisa and John, there are some very unique
What's that?
There are some very unique situations with this property, and it's something I think the town would not be doing government overreach if they had reached out to the state, because there are a lot of issues going on with this, and they are certainly borderlining the situation of some legal infringement rights or falsely advertising how this property should be sold.
Yeah,
So
And
it
I
may
agree.
be something that could be raised to the state. There are a couple of state representatives that could be reached out to. One is Taylor Arsenault. He is the intaker of all APR exchanges. And of course, you can always go to the top of the line with the agricultural commissioner. But there are some very important issues happening on this property. I, as the active farmer, am very aware of them. I do have first right of refusal, but the way they are marketing it is not quite legal. So we have not been able to act upon that. And that's something we're working through. We have a lawyer and a lot of things happening, but you're going to see a lot of people questioning this because I-50 and Norton on 50 acres sounds like a steal. But when you have a property with 51 plus or minus acres of APR, which is directly dictated by how the APR operates, and then you attach an 80,000 square foot lot within the wellhead restriction zone and a lot of other things that happen. There are a lot of issues. This is a house that is 1765. It has not a working septic system. In 16 years, no one's lived in it. It's questionable whether it's even a dwelling anymore, and probably should be condemned because it is a fire hazard in town. There are a lot of issues with this property. And, you know, I don't know if I'm overreaching or overstepping, but this is very much so a concern to the town also as an APR, but also as a public safety hazard. In 16 years, no one's lived in this house. And it's probably condemned.
But it sounds like from the issue of discussion that was brought up, that whether or not it would be a suitable property for the town to add to an open state, long-term open space preservation is no. It would not be something we would.
no, I mean, it's already
believe you're
protected. It's already protected
Right.
under APR, so there's no need for the town to pursue it. And honestly, you know, I don't see any sort of issue for it being like the way it is right now moving forward. You know, and I think, you know, yeah, I think the property is going to be maintained and used as a agricultural farm as long as we're here in Norton.
Correct. I believe there is an option if there is not a suitable buyer, that the town could potentially purchase it. But unless a suitable buyer comes into the situation, that it's the state has first right of refusal over the town until a point the state decides they no longer have first right of refusal.
I honestly think the state would probably keep it anyway or they'd want it because I think
There's a unique situation. The state of Massachusetts in this program and the federal government, this is a unique property.
yeah.
It is the state and federal government both have an interest in this property, and both agencies are not allowed to hold land.
Right. So one of them has to make the decision, obviously.
So they have to reassign it to a third party.
Oh, okay.
So that is and you can take my word for this or you can do your research. But this is typical of APR policy. And we do have some other APR issues in town here, with my knowledge, that are not being properly utilized, which could be a potential problem in the future if someone contests them. Because we have two APRs that are not actively being farmed by an agricultural facility, which in the future could be a severe headache because of the requirements that APR does require. And I believe conservation is in control of those other properties.
We are in control of the other property, and
no one has, to my knowledge, at this point, has invoked the right to contest it, which may happen in the near future. I'm just
and then for instance, we tell them that they can go cut down all the trees they want to basically make it a a farmland as it was, predominantly, it was, but for instance, the person that's interested in, utilizing that property and gaining a lease with us would be, responsible for doing that likeliness of that. It's just no one has really stepped forward to want to do that.
So someone has to step forward, submit a farm plan, and prove a commercial application of agricultural production, not homesteading, not any of these. It's a program that allows commercial production. It's not a hobby farm situation. APR is very restrictive, and it's a protection of land through an agricultural grant.
Right.
And I know the properties we have had to do with some development in town, and that's how the town had acquired them.
Yeah, and just so that we were all on the same page, the reason why this APR was, I guess, it used to be where Rose Farm used to be, to my knowledge, and they had
You
to
are correct.
relocate it because of the Solomese School, the construction of that. And the area that was designated as an APR was going to be off of Barrow Street, and it's been there since, I can't remember how long ago, but whenever the Solomese School was built, it's around the same area, same time frame.
I think maybe the assignment was probably done in the 80s.
Yeah, I'd say the 80s. That sounds about right.
Which would be about right, because I believe that particular APR may not have what's called an OPAF restriction. And an OPAF restriction is option to purchase at fair market value. I believe that is a very early one, and that was when the state and federal government was just entertaining these options in the agricultural industry.
Well, I will say, if anybody is interested in potentially, I guess, investigating the potential of utilizing the land off of Barrow Street for, kind of taking a look at it, giving us a farm plan and stuff, we'd be more than open, the commission would be more than open to, take a look at that and kind of go over kind of the benefits that might provide the town, and also make for meeting the criteria as you've outlined.
And if that's something you think that we could work as a team, I think that's something, whether I would be a fit or someone else, we could maybe have a subcommittee or something and discuss this with my agricultural experience, whether it be me or someone else. We could certainly work towards, making that so the town still has the right before it gets, because the state does have the right to reassign it and physically take it from the town and assign it to a farmer.
Right.
So I think that would allow the ability for the town to still take control and have some authority in the situation.
Right.
So if
And
that's something in the future you'd like to discuss.
No, I definitely think that would be good, especially, since it's been 40 years since that property has been assigned, or plus or minus. But I think, definitely just kind of discussing it further and kind of evaluating it with the board here, since they're the stewards of the APR here, it'd be good for us to kind of go over kind of what the potential would be for that.
And I certainly will reach out outside of this meeting to both you, John, and Lisa, to kind of help clarify that. And maybe we can come up as a team with a plan to futurely investigate that piece of property. But
And if you want to send us over any sort of plans you might have already, to kind of take a look at too, that would be helpful.
absolutely. But as of the Crane Street property, I believe that in this particular situation it's in, it is under a fully protected state, with the state holding a lien on the deed, where I don't believe the town has any ability at this point.
Yeah, I didn't see the ability for that in the APR restrictions, so I just left it alone. I said you have to deal with the state on it, so because they own it basically with the Riley Trust.
All right, I think the horse has been beaten to death.
I think so.
Thanks for the information.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time today, and I appreciate your service to the community.
Thank you. Next item, anything further in the report from staff?
Not much. I'm gonna be taking vacation this year. Ooh, wow. Think about that. So I will be going to Portugal in August. of this year, and I'm looking for my 40th birthday to go away for some time too. So I will let you know when that gets decided upon, but I'll
But
just.
it depends on if it's on a week, right? A hearing.
You're looking for some of the hottest places now in the.
So
you know,
I've given my wife kind of a to-do list to kind of pick out of all the places we could go, and just kind of pick 4 places that I probably would like to go to that I've never been to. So it's going to be kind of just a mini family excursion.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not as bad as choosing Phoenix to go, but Portugal is getting a reputation for really becoming difficult in August, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, I guess we're staying in a place, we've already booked it, so we're staying in a place that has central air in the Azores, so we'll be all right.
Oh, it's not Portugal, that's the Azores.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking about
Hey, they still own those islands.
I know, but the Portugal itself has, it's beginning to have the same kind of forest fire problems that California has.
No, I just need to brush up on my Portuguese. I'll be all right.
All right.
That's all I have, everyone.
Okay.
Shall I make,
Okay. Was that you, Dan? Because you're frozen.
shall I make a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yes. I think that just happened.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Can I make, I'll make a motion to adjourn then?
So we have to go all over again.
I am making a motion to
You said
adjourn.
motion to adjourn. Yep.
Good idea. I'm going to be making a motion to leave the meeting,
Yes.
so.
All right. Thank you, guys. Take care, everyone.